Oh, yeah. Which one is it?
One
of them.
bottom ones.
No. Yes. That's good.
That's good. That's a little bit better. Okay. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Mark Thompson, and I am a senior lecturer here at the University of Jyväskylä in the Music, Mind, and Technology program. And I'm here today accompanied by some of our current students. And the idea is that we just wanted to tell you a little bit about the program of Music, Mind, and Technology and Music Therapy in a sort of interactive forum, as interactive as this can be. So if you're listening, welcome. Welcome to Jyväskylä, welcome to Finland. I thought I would start the morning off with giving a bit of overview of the department and maybe a little bit about each of the programs. And then I'll let the others introduce themselves. And from then on, we can answer your questions as they come up. Or if we don't get any questions, we can just keep giving you information. Okay, so if you're using this Google Hangout, if you click on the Showcase tab on the left side of your screen, it should lead you to links that we'll be posting during the Hangout. And currently there's one link to this PDF file that contains information about the program, some general information about the program and of the Department of Music here at University of Jyväskylä. So I guess we could start then with that, or shall we introduce ourselves first quickly?
Quick introduction.
Yeah, okay, quick introduction. So yeah, I'm Mark Thompson. I'm originally from Montreal, Canada, and I've been in Finland for just over 10 years now. So it's been a long time, and I'm actually a former student of the Music, Mind, and Technology program. And with us today, we have just who you are and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Tracy Dempsey, and I'm from Northern Ireland, studying Music, Mind, and Technology. I'm also 38, so the oldest student here.
I'm Jenna Smith from North Carolina in the US, and I'm studying music therapy.
Thanks, Stella. Hi, I'm Felix Loss. I'm from Leipzig, Germany. I'm 26 and I'm studying as well in the music therapy program.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm from Perth in Western Australia, and I'm in the Music, Mind, Technology program.
Great. So now, as you can see, we're quite international. There aren't actually any Finns here today. There are a couple of Finns in the program, but generally our programs are targeted towards international students. So of course, the department runs mainly in Finnish, and with the exception of these two international master's programs. And of course, there are some PhD students who are also international, but as far as undergraduate students goes, they're predominantly Finnish, or at least fluent in Finnish, that they can follow the courses in Finnish. All right, so the Department of Music's been active since 1968. So now I'm just reading off these slides that are in the Showcase tab right. If you can find the Showcase, you should be able to find the link to these slides. Department of Music is made up of 4 main subjects in musicology, music education, music therapy, and music, mind, and technology. So we don't actually have any performance program here that's actually covered by the Jyväskylä Polytechnic University of Applied Arts.
Applied Science.
Right.
Applied Science.
Sorry. Jyväskylä University of Applied Sciences takes care of the performance and more of the practical musical training. And here it's more based on theory, on musicology, and music education. But there's also a very large and active music therapy program. And this Music, Mind, and Technology program, which is kind of mixed in with all of the research done on music perception and cognition at the department. So the staff is about 35 people and about a little over 300 students. And we're a partner with this Finnish music campus. So this is kind of the link between us and the University of Applied Sciences. So while we don't have any performance students in our department, there's a close connection with the University of Applied Sciences, which does. So a lot of our students also take classes in the University of Applied Sciences. So the next slide is just music therapy master's program and music mind technology program highlighted red, and that's just to show that these two programs are taught in English and entirely in English, and people are expected to hand in their work in English, and they're international programs. I believe that maybe Joshua, you know for sure, but the University of Jyväskylä has how many international programs?
There are quite a number of international master's programs here at the University of Jyväskylä, and they keep adding more. So I'll have to check, but we can put the link up in the showcase tab next to the Hangout, so you can check the full range of international master's programs here, all run in English and across all different faculties.
Great.
Oh yeah, if you can't find the showcase tab that we keep talking about, there's if you open up the Google Hangout in the Google Plus page, there is a sidebar on the right-hand side, which will either show a Q&A tab or a showcase tab. You can switch between these by going to the little like 9-square menu on the top bar. If you click on that, it'll give you the option of switching between those two apps.
Excellent. Okay, moving on. So these programs are 2-year international master degree programs. Currently, we have students from 18 different countries, so there's about 35 students, maybe a little less, between 30 and 35 students, and from 18 different countries. So quite a large, quite a large variety of people come to our program. And our next application period opens in December, so just in next week, and it runs until sometime in January. We'll check the exact date. I don't have it, but I think it's around January 20th. I will confirm that in a few minutes. Okay, moving on. So the international master's programs are tied into the Center for Interdisciplinary Music Research that we have at the University of Jyväskylä, which has various areas of research ranging from studies in musicianship, with music education, and particularly new types of technology used for music education. There's a variety of research done on music and emotions, and of course music therapy. There are also some researchers interested in developmental psychology of music, with very small children, but also dealing a lot with how music is used by teenagers, for example. In terms of mood regulation and how teens interact with music in their everyday lives. Music and culture is another area. Music and computing. So we have a large, we have a few researchers anyway working on music information retrieval. This has to do with music and computing. So, detecting different types of features within digital audio. And categorizing music based on these computationally extracted features. And we have a big music and movement research area here. We have an optical motion capture system where we study the movements made by dancers while they're listening to music, and also by musicians while they're performing music. And we also have some researchers interested in music and neuroscience. So looking at how different parts of the brain are being activated while listening to music. So this is in cooperation with some colleagues at the University of Helsinki as well, in their psychology department. We stress interdisciplinarity at in our department. So the students, they're going to tell you about their research projects in a little bit. You'll find that we accept students from many different backgrounds, educational backgrounds, and obviously cultural backgrounds. We're interested in students who can maybe contribute together and kind of learn off of each other as well. So we're interested in getting students with a very technological background in terms of maybe sound recording or sound analysis using computers, but we're also interested in students with a very strong humanities background. And what we like to do is kind of peg these students with each other for projects and see how they can, you know, contribute their own specialities to the projects. And finally, we have some labs. We have an EEG lab where we do some EEG analysis with active electrodes, and we also have the software used to analyze EEG signals. As I said, we had a motion capture system. This is a 12 camera system, kind of like, you know, if you think of like a Lord of the Rings or the new Star Wars movies, you know, they're using all these technologies where they put these reflective markers on their actors, and then you can kind of model or, you know, create interesting figures from those representations. Here we actually use it for research. So we can analyze the positional data of the dancers and do some analysis on those data recorded with the motion capture system. And the music therapy people will be able to tell you much more about the music therapy clinic, which we have two active clinics. So we have real music therapy patients coming in, real music therapy clients coming in for real sessions. And we have an observation room where students can observe the sessions with the music therapist and take notes, or I'm not sure what you do. They'll tell you. And the music technology lab. So right now we're standing in a real live professional studio that's in the basement of the music department. And we also have a very nice, how do you call it? You know, just the sound booth, very nice sound booth. And we'll give a link to, I don't think any of us are really experts in the sound recording here, but there are some people in the department who are, and we can actually send a link to the website of the studio if you're interested in seeing what types of gadgets are included here. All right, so maybe we could move on. Maybe we could move on to asking questions to these students, and we'll find out what they're studying. So Tracy, what would you say is your speciality, your research interest?
Okay, so I'm researching music and well-being. As I said before, I'm a mature student in some sense. But I already have a coaching business, and I wanted to come back and underpin my work with some more rigorously academic research. So I'm currently running a music and wellbeing project where I'm helping people learn kantala, a traditional Finnish instrument, and combining that with positive psychology exercises and mindfulness meditations to see how we can improve people's wellbeing. So that's running at the moment. And maybe Jenna, this one?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jenna. So I already studied music therapy in the United States, and I was working as a music therapist for a couple of years, and I came here to kind of cultivate my clinical skills. So last year I did clinical work with a Finnish teenager with vision loss, kind of using improvisation and listening to music and exploring his world to support him as he was moving towards post-school life. And this year I'm working with a colleague doing a music therapy group for elementary school kids from all over the world. So a multicultural group of kids with emotional and behavioral needs. and the kids are from Finland, India, Pakistan, China, all coming here from all over the world, and we use music to work on supporting their emotional and behavioral needs. Yeah. Oh, I'm also part of a research project exploring heart rate variability and breathing in music psychotherapy, which is really exciting.
Cool. Yeah, as my background is a bit different, I studied sociology and politics in my bachelor's in Germany. But I was just very interested in music therapy as such, also as a musician, of course. And well, I was in Jyväskylä before, like for vacation, so that's why I heard from the program, about the program, and been here before. And so I just decided to apply and give it a try, and here I am. But what is very nice for me is to implement like my background into my studies, as I'm researching the social inclusion factor as an educational and therapeutical factor in music therapy setting. So, which means that I have a group of kids with partly special needs, but partly typical kids, so fully functioning kids, and see how social inclusion factor can influence positive outcome within this setting. And this is what I'm doing right now, which is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun and great opportunity. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So I hadn't been to Jyväskylä before, or Finland. I really had no idea what I was getting myself into, to be honest. The weather's a little bit different to Australia, but otherwise it's a very nice place. But I did hear about the motion capture lab here and all the great music and movement research that was happening. So that's largely why I'm here. And I'm conducting a study at the moment down in the motion capture lab with the black suits with the little reflective markers on them, just like they use in the movies, which is what I tell all my participants, and they love it. They all pretend they're Gollum. But I'm supposed to be investigating interpersonal synchronization. So I'm getting 2 people in the motion capture lab and asking them to dance to some music and seeing how they interact with that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far.
I was in it.
I was in it.
Yeah, everyone hit track. Yeah, you haven't participated, have you? No.
Too busy.
The catch is they're not always listening to the same music, so it's like a silent disco. Yeah, it's been very interesting to see what people do when they're being forced to dance out of time with others. It's fun.
But as you see, you can always take part, of course, in the research projects of your fellow students, which is very interesting to get a better insight on what they are doing or meet people there, like in violin motion capture experiments, for example.
Yeah, it's great meeting people in experiments. It's a very social thing. But yeah, no, it is. We do collaborate quite a bit, and we have a colloquium session every week where we present what we're working on to our peers. So aside from participating in each other's experiments, we also get to hear about them in that colloquium session. So yeah, we collaborate a lot amongst the music psychology programs.
And Mark, maybe if you share some of the other questions people have sent through via email that aren't in the app.
Right. Well, I had some more questions for you guys, just for background. How did you first hear of the program, and what were you doing before coming here? So what's your background, and what is it about your background that led you to be interested in these programs?
Okay, well, since I'm holding the mic, I wanted to leave the country. Me and my boyfriend were considering options to basically go and see a bit more of the world. And I read somebody's blog post talking about free education in Germany, which I didn't realize was a thing at uni level. And when I did some research, there were at the time 5 countries in the EU that were offering free master's level programs. So I talked to Connor, and the only master's he wanted to do was music therapy. So I said, I'll find all of the places in Europe where you can do a free master's in music therapy. And the only one was here in Jyväskylä. So I said, well, I'll find something in psychology or music. But as you know, you combine the 2 here in the music, mind and technology. So it was kind of serendipitous, but it was a perfect course for me. And like Josh, we'd never been to Finland, never heard of Jyväskylä. And had no intention of living here, but actually ended up here, have really enjoyed it. It's been quite a transition, but it's been a brilliant adventure. and a great way to earn, obviously, some academic credentials, especially if you partied the first time around and you wanted a bit of redemption. So that's why we're here.
Okay. So I was working in New York as a music therapist for a couple of years after my undergraduate degree in music therapy. And I realized that it would be beneficial to be more qualified as a therapist. And I had read articles by the researchers here in college like 10 years ago, and was already interested in kind of Finland and Scandinavian music therapy. Started looking into programs in Finland and Denmark and Norway, and this was the most like English free 2 years. It was kind of perfect for me, and I wanted to see some of the world. And,
Yeah, as I said earlier, I studied sociology and politics before in Germany, but as a musician, and well, I'm a classical trained violinist. I was always interested, I think, in like music therapy, like even when I was like in my teenagers, but my teacher actually always didn't talk me out. It was like, yeah, it's not like it's very young and not much future there and like job stuff and so forth. And so I kind of canceled that. But as I said, I was in Finland before because I love Finland a lot. It's very pretty here. It's very beautiful. Very nice people, not many of them, like 12 or something. But it's a very nice environment to be here. And as like the country of education in Europe, it's of course a great opportunity to go here to university. And when I heard about the program here, and especially about the curriculum, because coming from sociology, I really enjoy research, but I really enjoy to do practical work as well. And so this is some kind of perfect fit here because we have this very intense clinical training, but also this research focus that we have in the program, which is very intense and very hard sometimes, but also it's a very, very rich educational experience here, which makes it for me a very perfect fit to combine those two things that I'm really interested in and that are really fun, and so that it's a nice balance of not only being a theoretically educated researcher, but like actually go to the field right here where we study.
Cool. So yeah, I guess why am I here? Going back a bit. It's a long story. I was really interested in both psychology and music, and actually did both a psychology degree in a Bachelor of Science and a music degree in a Bachelor of Music, and was sort of delighted to discover the field of music psychology and that I could pull these two together. So when I finished my 2 bachelors, I was just looking for a program where I could kind of pull these together. And in my bachelor's thesis, I came across a lot of research that came from the University of Jyväskylä. So I was speaking to my supervisor about places I could go next, and she mentioned that there was this master's program here, so I could study with these people who I'd just been referencing, which was quite an exciting prospect. So there were a couple of programs she mentioned. The only free one was in Finland, and with the reputation of the people here and knowing I'd have access to a motion capture lab and such, it was a pretty obvious choice, I guess.
Okay, good. So again, all very varied reasons for coming here. For love, for...
He was coming with me anyway.
Okay, well, we did get a few questions before we started, not too many, but again, if you're watching and you want to ask us something, you can, or we're also checking our Facebook feed and email, so if you have any questions while we're talking, please feel free to write some in. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, so I got a question yesterday. What kind of field do people usually work for after graduation from the MMT program? So this isn't, I must say, this isn't the easiest question to answer, but lucky, of course, I'm joined by them. Of course, I went on to do a PhD, and I think a lot of our program is focused on preparing master's students for PhD studies. Not necessarily here, but we have students who've gone on to do PhDs at different universities around the world. And some have gone back to their home country to do a PhD in a field related to the MMT, and others have gone to different countries. So, you know, some people want to go back to their countries, and some people want to keep traveling. As for, so I think we prepare people to do PhD studies. That's like the simple answer. Of course, not everyone in our program has the ambition to do a PhD. So then it becomes a little more tricky to answer. Of course, there's not there's not like an MMT industry for people with this degree to like just find a job really easily. And part of that is because it's interdisciplinary. So like we focus on a lot of different areas, maybe without really focusing on one thing heavily. But what I found is that people who haven't gone to do a PhD have kind of, well, already when they started this program, they kind of had different reasons for doing so. They were already on sort of a career trajectory, and they figured that the MMT could help them achieve their goals of where they were heading anyway. So for some people, it's kind of like a stop along the way to what they were already planning on doing. So that sounds incredibly vague, but I can give you a few examples. So last year there was a girl from Hong Kong who graduated, and her master's degree was her thesis focused on music education and developing new methods of teaching music in a general classroom. And now she got hired as a music teacher in Hong Kong. That's one example. We have another guy from the UK who did his MMT, who got his degree a few years ago. And he's from the UK, and he's settled in Jyväskylä, and now he works as a professional proofreader and professional musician. So that's another example of someone who hasn't continued in academia. Although I would say that his time in the MMT did help him, get to where he is. He got a master's degree, which is a big benefit no matter what you want to do. And I think he benefited it in his own way, much different than the girl who wanted to become a music teacher did. So maybe, and here I think Tracy has some thoughts on that about career.
Yeah, so I have thought about a PhD, but I don't know if I could take another X number of years in academia. It's been quite interesting and strange to come from the business world back into academia. It's been great, but I also love getting back to work. Like this summer, I was going home and doing a mindfulness course, using some of the stuff that I've been studying here. So I like bringing it back into the business setting, and I plan to use more music psychology in my training and well-being work as well. So for me, it was definitely a case of skilling up and becoming more qualified to continue the business I already had. And I can see this being useful for things like creating online courses or writing ebooks, which are all things that have been part of the business plan anyway, but I wanted to come and get a more scientific grounding because there's an awful lot of dross out there. And I wanted to be better at being able to sift through, basically sort the wheat from the chaff as a reader of scientific output. And I think that's one of the key things about these master's programs, are that it teaches you to be more critical of scientific stories that you would read in the media. And because my background hasn't been in this area, it's something that I was definitely needing. There's an awful lot of pop psychology out there, specifically about music and psychology, and all kinds of grand claims being made about how playing piano is going to turn your child into a genius. So being able to study how to be more of a critical reader as a member of the public, I think, has been a really useful aspect of this course. So Josh, I'm not sure, as the other MMT student, what your career goals are?
Yes, that's a good question. I probably am looking at a PhD, so maybe a more standard MMT kind of student. Yeah, hoping to get further into academia, doing music psychology research, I suppose. But if other things come up, who knows? But that's the goal at this stage.
You guys, any thoughts?
Music therapists?
Well, so tied to this, there's a question about the music therapy path. If you want to
Someone has asked, yeah.
Someone has asked. Okay.
on that screen.
Oh.
It's by
There's a question about working in the United States.
yeah. So
Okay.
would getting a music therapy degree here allow someone to be board certified?
So someone has asked. Oh, Liz has asked.
No.
No,
Mhm.
not Liz. Okay, so anyways, would getting a music therapy degree here allow someone to be board certified in the US? So that is an important question. In the United States, this degree would, if you don't have a music therapy degree already, this degree wouldn't necessarily like set you up to take the American Music Therapy Association board exam that is necessary to be qualified in the US. I'm lucky, and I think the music therapist from the US last year was in the same position as me, where we already studied music therapy and had this MTBC certification qualification, which requires basically a 4-year bachelor's in the US or a 2-year master's. But some people have gotten music therapy masters in Europe and then gone back and kind of worked it out with the American Music Therapy Board Association. So kind of look at what you have, take a few extra classes, study for the exam, and it's possible, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend if you want to practice in the US, definitely like go straight back and work. I wouldn't necessarily recommend coming here. I would probably look into programs in the United States if you don't already have the degree. But it is possible. There's always ways to kind of work it out with the music therapy board. Does that answer?
There's one more you could take. Would you need medical knowledge before you came here?
Medical knowledge.
So I'm guessing this is a no.
Well, everybody in the music
So if
therapy.
you read out the question.
Okay. She comes from a performance and education background, and she's teaching. Are we expected to know medical terms even before they start the program? No. Everybody in the music therapy program comes from totally different backgrounds. We have music therapy, education, musicology. People are really skilled and talented in all different ways, and you don't need any specific knowledge about medical stuff before you come. Some people do, but
the same goes in the Music Mind Technology program. There's a very broad range of previous experience. Some people have a background in psychology already. Not many of us, I don't think. A lot of us are musicians of some sort. Some people do more sort of music technology before, or work as DJs. I think we've got 1 or 2 people who are really much more in the computer science side of things and much less in psychology. But the first year of the program is very much focused on bringing everyone up to speed. So regardless of what the previous experience is, we all get a kind of general grounding in the basics of music psychology, as well as the music and neuroscience. So you do get to learn some of the brain terms and the basics of how that functions, so that everyone is kind of brought up to a fairly level playing field by the second year, when we should be doing most of our research.
And just to add to that, I would really recommend, if you're coming to the Music Mind and Technology course, that you would maybe do some self-education in some music software like Pro Tools or Logic. It would just really help you get up to speed much more quickly. There's lots of free tutorials online, so maybe in summer holidays before you came here, you could take some weeks and just get to grips with basic music processing technology. I think that was the steepest learning curve for a lot of people in MMT who'd never used it before. And there's such fantastic equipment here. You really want to be able to get the most out of it, rather than coming in as a beginner and seeing this array of things that you can't quite control. So I would definitely recommend self-study in music processing software before you come. Just even a few weeks would make a big difference.
Yeah, I guess generally it's good if you've got some kind of background in, or for MMT, if you've got some kind of background in music technology and a bit in psychology or neuroscience and a bit in music, that would really help. But if you don't, then you can catch up. But yeah.
And also, if you have a lot of experience in one field, say like music technology, the courses are accommodated to meet your, your existing knowledge on those things. So I think you'll end up taking the same courses as the people who have less experience. However, you might be given a special project, or you might be charged with actually giving a lecture to your peers on a topic you're very knowledgeable about. So we try to be accommodating to people with different backgrounds in that sense.
I think there's a real feature of the Finnish education system, perhaps, is there's a real focus on kind of self-directed learning. So there is a lot of project work and self-study. So the course can very much be tailored to what you need to get out of it, which is really nice. Is that?
And also considering this, it's to apply for those masters. It's not necessary to have like a bachelor beforehand in one of those fields. They say it helps, but you can basically apply with any other bachelor or equal degree, and then they might invite you for an interview and check how's your background whatsoever, what skills do you bring personally, which is very important for the, like in this Finnish educational system as such.
Yeah, that's an important part. We're interested in building kind of a team of students, right? It's not just a class of students, but it's people that we hope will get along with each other. The international community in Jyväskylä is relatively small, so the social circle can be quite tightly knit, maybe. And of course, Jyväskylä University has a lot of international students, although the community can seem a bit small. So we try to get people who we feel will get along with each other. That's part of the interviewing process. And who will collaborate. We're looking for people who collaborate well with others, and who are open to teaching, their peers. If they do have some expertise that their fellow student might not have, we're interested that they'll have the interest in teaching as well, in helping out. So it's we're trying to build a team, not just a class of students.
Good team.
Yes.
A family. We love each other.
So before I was reading these questions, there are actually more questions here. So it asks, are there job opportunities regarding this field, meaning MMT, but I guess we could open it up to music therapy inside of Finland. So that's a big job. That's a big question. The short answer is, I'd say it's not easy to go directly from graduating from our program to getting a job in Finland, simply because you need to be fluent in Finnish to get virtually any job in Finland. I mean, any job that that's the least bit associated with your degree, you would need to be fluent in Finnish already. And 2 years, I don't think is long enough to become fluent in Finnish, unless some people are really, really dedicated to it, which there have been, or some people just have a knack for languages and pick it up very quickly. So, I mean, I think just based on the language alone, I say it's difficult to find a job inside of Finland. It's not impossible though, and as I mentioned, this guy from the UK who's a student here now, he's doing proofreading for the university, so he's actually working in English, and he's quite a successful business doing that. So there are other opportunities to work in Finland, but I'd say they're not as big as we recommend students come here to study and then maybe like use it as an asset of having studying abroad, use that as an asset as they look for jobs in their home country. Of course, we don't discourage people from staying if they want to, but I'd say it's not necessarily easy to get a job after graduating from our degree. Yes.
So just as a career coach, I'm going to add a couple of thoughts to that, because I work with people a lot on non-traditional job searching. And plus, anecdotally, there's a lot of people that meet Finns when they're here and fall in love and end up staying. So they never tried to plan a life here, but they end up being here, as you say, hitting the language barrier and suddenly struggling to find work. So I'm not answering specifically about becoming a music therapist in Finland, because I think you could probably add something there about the number of years of training that you need to complete. But in general, if you find yourself here and madly in love with the Finn and suddenly job hunting beyond the masters, think about online work. I'm still coaching people back home via Skype, and that's where my income's coming from. I'm also getting paid fantastically every now and again to go back to Ireland and run training programs. There's a lot of things like online course creation you could think about to share your new skills and monetize that. And as well, I do believe from Reddit and other online forums that IT jobs do tend to sometimes hire English speakers. So whilst it is definitely true that it's hard to find work without speaking Finnish, there are some certain jobs that you can get hold of. Finnish is a difficult language to learn, and I think that's something people have asked a lot of us about when they know we're studying here. How do you cope with the language? Truth be told, we don't really need it much here. Felix is one person who's planning on staying and keen on learning, so we can talk more about that. But in terms of somebody who doesn't see herself staying here long term, just being able to ask for things in the supermarket, thank people, wish them a nice day is enough, I feel, to show respect without slowing them down massively. The level of English is absolutely fantastic here, although the stereotype is that Finns think they're not good at English, but they're great. So if you have concerns about moving here because of the language, you won't need it in the course, you won't really need it for dealing with your day-to-day business. Most of the people you'll be dealing with will speak great English, so don't let that put you off. But networking is key as well. So if you are looking for jobs, just get a good CV done up, get into online forums and groups. Like I say, think about online income as a kind of sideline, at least. If you're a musician, for example, you could be teaching online lessons. You also do have an international community here that you could potentially be selling music lessons to, running workshops. So there are ways to be creative to earn some income. But I think specifically talking about music therapy careers here, one of you two could talk better about that in terms of the years of education that you need.
Would you?
Yeah, so this degree doesn't qualify you to work as a music therapist in Finland. You would need a 3-year training program after this degree through the Eino Institute. So that's, yeah, this is kind of one of the only countries that you really can't work with this degree as a music therapist. So, but some people find other ways. One of the students from the last batch of music therapists has been working for the university and like helping with research projects, and she also works at I think she works at a school with kids that speak English as a music therapist. So there are possibilities for sure, but it's difficult.
Yeah, you have to do this, as Jenna said, this 3-year program, which is in Finnish, actually.
Yeah.
Which makes it really tricky. And other than that, it's of course research, where you can go in, because like this master is also so focused on research and should prepare actually also, as Mark said earlier, like the MMT as well for going for a PhD. And so, yeah, it is one of the few countries in Europe where you can't work as an actual music therapist. I know that from Germany, for example, you could work, but as in Germany, we have this very strict distinction between music therapy and music psychotherapy. So you can't do music psychotherapy in Germany, for example, without a psychology degree. Extra to that, you can work as a music therapist, but you have to very harshly strictly distinct between music psychotherapy and music therapy, which is, for example, not the case in the Netherlands, for example, who have a different stance. Turkey, yeah. So it depends a lot on the country you're in, but for Finland, as Jenna said, it's quite tricky. As for the language, yeah, as Tracy said, you don't really need it. It's of course, I don't know, I feel always it's a nice thing, of course, to do, to speak a bit more Finnish to the Finns, and it's a nice thing to like an extra skill maybe, but it's such a hard language, and within the program, as it's part of the curriculum, to do at least two courses to finish 2, which works, but it's pretty hard as the program's very full, and Finnish will not be your main interest during staying here.
Because of time.
Just time-wise, exactly. unless you come from Estonia where you have a very unfair advantage. But yeah, other than that, it's not so important. But for example, one of our PhD students here, he is in Finland since some years. He studied in Tampere before, and he doesn't speak any Finnish, and he said he doesn't need it. Like, you don't need it in the university environment when you're like here for research, and everything is in English, and people around in the shops, as you said, they speak brilliantly. It's totally fine, even though they might be a bit shy about this, but that might be, well, the Finnish attitude. Yeah, just I would hang in there because we had another question also from Lise again towards the, she asked for the US program first, is that right?
No, she wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, no, she was asking for,
She's from the Philippines.
for the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
Okay, she's asking now, she's planning to apply to music therapy program.
Yay,
Perfect.
yay.
My next question, hang on. My next question would be, what requirements are expected from the students during the course of the program? Well, of course, to be active and to be on time. There, you have no. I'm sorry to say that you actually have no deadlines here. When it comes to,
It's not true.
So not true.
You're not allowed to say that.
sorry, no, but there's of course a program deadline to say that's we give for the thesis work. So it's basically the requirement is to work with us together and work with the people here and do the best you can, and then we will find a way to bring you through this program. Is that right, Mr. Mark?
Sure. It's always interesting to get the student perspective.
I think the biggest requirement is to attend all the things and really kind of embrace the experience of working with people from all over the world in music therapy. There's not necessarily a whole lot of assignments and you need to know this much about medicine, this much about psychotherapy, although there is a lot to learn together. But the biggest thing is kind of being involved in this clinical experience together, and learning from each other, working together, being curious together. Yeah, I think that's where you get the most benefit, is this kind of group investigation, curiosity in the clinical work, and that takes a lot of, you learn a lot about yourself and how to kind of be in this process, which is really important as a therapist. So yeah, good.
Yeah, I think we, it was mentioned before, we're focused on student-directed learning and self-learning. So we expect students to be self-motivated and interested in the topic that they're studying in. So, just interested in music therapy, kind of to have a passion for it. So yeah, we're looking for students who are self-motivated and we expect them to work with others. There's lots of group work involved, not just with students, but with members of the community outside of the university, especially in the music therapy. You work with outsiders a lot. So and of course, we do have deadlines occasionally. All those, but then again, we can be a bit loose on deadlines compared to maybe American or Canadian universities would be. But yeah, I think being self-motivated and passionate about either music therapy or music technology or music psychology would be a big asset. I'm just going to run through quickly the rest of these questions. It asks if we have an exchange program or an internship. I don't think anyone currently went on an exchange this year from the class, or no. Okay, in the past it's happened, and exchanges usually occur in the second year of studies. And sometimes they're worked out through, there's no one path to doing an exchange in a different university. Sometimes they're based on Erasmus, so you can apply for funding to travel within Finland on an exchange program. Or sometimes they're done very on a level that's very kind of person to person. So you just know someone in a different university that you'd like to work with for a semester. They're okay with it. Some letters of invitation are sent around. And then we say, okay, well, you can go and you can fulfill your credits by doing research work in their lab or by taking courses in whatever department that is. So there's no direct path to doing an exchange, and they're actually not quite common, although I think the average has been about maybe 1 student per class. So 1 per 35 students would be doing an exchange, and it's usually because they really want to do an exchange. So we won't necessarily advertise, oh, do an exchange, but it's really motivated by the students themselves.
We have a lot of people coming here on exchange, though.
Well, that's true. Yeah. We have a lot of exchange students. This year we have some music therapy students, and last year we had some music therapy and music mind technology students. So in the program, it's just in your courses, it just wouldn't be the people in your degree, but also exchange students, and for that matter, there are also students from outside the program participating in the courses as well, depending on the course, of course. And internships. Currently, we don't have any internship program with any industry. That's not to say that it could never happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
I actually just got offered an internship, but not related to music technology in the University of Jyväskylä, but it was more about language and multilingual education. But I ended up turning it down because it just wasn't going to be economically feasible. It was an unpaid internship with no accommodation allowance, and it was going to take me away from paid work. But there are internship opportunities, but not necessarily directly related to music technology. But just in terms of travel or professional development, you may have an opportunity to do something that is indirectly related, but good for building your skills just as a professional.
And our music therapy clinical work can, sometimes in music therapy programs, an internship is, this is part of the curriculum. But here you can set up clinical work outside of the university, like we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's similar to an internship. So I work at an elementary school, and Felix has a group of little kids with autism and typically developing kids, kind of exploring that. So that's internship-ish, but it's not necessarily
informal.
Yeah.
There's a technology question. Can I go to?
Okay.
Okay, so a question came in of, could you describe more what the technology and programming training is like in MMT? And I have Mikko Myllakowski, if I pronounced it right, on Facebook here giving answers. He's our music tech guru. So I have some things to read out from him. So he said, we cover audio, MIDI recording, editing and processing as the basic topics. And that's where I was saying that doing some basic preparatory work and that would be a big help. We also do Max MSP visual programming, electronic music. The new emphasis that we're trying to aim at is new musical interfaces and instruments. For example, he has developed with the team here some musical gloves that are music controllers, MIDI controllers. And he actually just demoed that at the Slush conference in Helsinki, I think. So that's where you go to look for funding. So there's good links to industry as well, that you can create something very innovative here and then get support to try and turn that into a business idea. We also do a lot on music information retrieval. In other words, audio analysis or extraction software, things like listening to a piece of music and pulling out particular features of it and looking at how people process that or perceive music differently. That will be used a lot in the music therapy side as well as the music mind and technology. So there is good collaboration from the music technology side in both programs. He's saying we're also trying to get new research projects around the new musical interfaces like the gloves, and these themes will be reflected more and more in the MMT program. The connections to music education and therapy are very important in this development.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point. So like, we get people who have done sound recording, who worked in studios before. So when we say we have a course on music technology, you know, the people who've never done it before, they will learn about, you know, basic sound recording and working in Pro Tools, for example. But people who are well experienced in that, they'll also benefit from the courses if they become interested in these, you know, music technology and music education setting. So I think the technology courses have a lot to offer for people who are really you know, technologically advanced, because you know, they're going to still be doing things that they haven't done before. Whether it is like continuing with working with new types of ways of performing music with these novel musical interfaces, or working with Max MSP, or and then moving on to music computing, so the music information retrieval stuff would be of interest to someone who already has a music tech background.
Yeah, basically whatever level you're at, the music technology study should help you be able to use music technology in setting up experiments or for your thesis work. But also we do have people who are interested in it as a performance tool as well. There's some people who either music performance is going to be their main career, or it's a side career, and the music technology can be used there too. There is a related question that's come up here.
Can I add on that one with music technology?
Okay, yeah.
Just quickly, there are some videos up online if you want some examples of some of the projects that people do work on here. The music technology component of the program sort of culminates in a performance or concert at the end of the first year, where people showcase stuff they've been working on, and there's all sorts of things from kind of interactive visuals that go along with music to my group worked on a sort of musical game for use in an educational setting. So there's a whole range of things there, and some of those videos are up on the website already, and more of them will be going up on our YouTube channel very soon. So stay tuned if you want some examples of the kind of music tech stuff we do.
Okay, Megan was just told me there's a Smart Hand Project Facebook as well with nice videos, so that's the gloves that he was talking about. And he's basically saying music technology is a tool to do research, apply these skills in music education, therapy, performance and well-being. But linked to that, as I say, another question came in asking, would the MMT programme be a possible fit for someone interested in pursuing a PhD in music theory? And we're basically thinking that's more of a music education, musicology course. We don't really cover music theory in the MT or MMT courses. But as we have said, you know, the course directors are open to feedback as well. So Mark, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Music theory?
PhD in music theory, depends how broadly you want to define music theory. We've had last year we had a visiting professor here, Professor Justin London from Carleton University in the States. He's actually professor of theory, but he does empirical research on rhythm performance. So yeah, I'm not sure how broadly you want to define theory. I'd say, you know, the short answer is probably no, because we don't focus on music theory as such. There's no courses on Schenkerian analysis, or you know, harmonic analysis is not covered here. But then again, you know, it's how broadly you want to define music theory. You know, it comes into play occasionally, but I'd say it's not the main focus. We're more, yeah, it's trying to be careful with how I phrase it. I don't want to say a big fat no, but it's probably not the best option if you want to pursue a PhD in music theory. But it really depends what your topic is.
Cool.
Yeah. Any more directly?
Is it possible for students to take minor? Liz is asking, is it possible for students to take minor subjects or electives? What are the options available?
So for the MMT, is the first year is pretty much set in your courses. So those are the base courses. In the second year, there are 20 credits worth of electives that you can take. The condition of those electives that they be related to your thesis work. So in the second year, the focus really is on your thesis and the progress of your thesis. So you're expected to take electives that'll be directly related to the, how your thesis is progressing. And again, we probably have some examples of how some students have decided what sort of electives they wanted to take. In terms of a minor, they don't really have, as far as I know, they don't have that many minor programs at the University of Jyväskylä. There is this one minor in neuroscience, and we're actually still working out how we could fit match our program to be, how we could integrate that minor into our program. So there is some, I think by next year it'll be quite well integrated, and there'll probably be that opportunity to take some. Okay, Joshua wants to talk about that.
Okay, yeah. I just applied for the minor in cognitive neuroscience, so I guess that'll be a trial run because it's probably the first time that's being done in conjunction. But yeah. So that is possible. I don't know any other minors though. But yeah, there is a cognitive neuroscience minor you can do, and I think the electives are pretty flexible, as in you can take electives outside of the music department. So say in psychology or kind of anything that's related, I guess, or in kind of statistical methods or
movement dance therapy.
There's a great dance movement therapy elective that you can take. That's quite fun. Finnish folk music. Yeah.
But you actually, like what we have also is that specialization. But what I'm doing, for example, sociology of music, which is more from the musicological perspective, is very interesting. But the course itself is in Finnish. So what you can do though, because the literature is in English, that you have in Finland, you can do a book exam on these things. So you're also like schedule-wise very flexible in that, so that you can fit it into your schedule, even though your week might be very busy. But these are things that you can do, for example, as well.
So again, because I have been trying to make my thesis match my business model, I've been doing extra modules and things like developing effective learners, which is something I already run training in, but wanted to get the most up-to-date research on. I've done electives in cognitive psychology. I did the Finnish folk one so that I could then teach the Cantala to the group of thesis participants. Also went to the dance therapy one, although I'm not doing any assignments in that. There's some things where there could be clashes, or you just don't have time to actually get the credits, complete and get the credits for modules. But if you have an interest in it, usually they're quite open to letting you come along and participate and just not do the assignments for credits, or as long as you speak to them up front at the very start of the course. Some of them really are open to you being part of the class and contributing, even if you're not going to academically claim it at the end. So there is a lot of flexibility depending on the department and often depending on the lecturer. And there are, as I think Josh mentioned, there are options sometimes to do, or Felix, book exams in English where the courses are taught in Finnish. So sometimes you might not be able to use the slides that are used, but you have the reading list, and then you can do an exam in English. Again, it's all about communication and letting them know early on what you need. It's definitely been very flexible, and for me, I've been able to tailor this exactly to my career, rather than just follow a path that somebody else has decided would be useful for me.
Okay, was there another part to that question?
Options available.
Okay, yeah. So, maybe flexibility is a big theme in our program. So are there any other questions coming up? Because there are some issues I wanted to talk to each of you about. Maybe some people are interested in practical aspects of living here.
Yeah.
Okay. So are there any more?
No, you can. No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So how would you describe living in Jyväskylä? What kind of town is it?
I think it's quite cozy. Everything's very available. Like, I ride my bike to class, to the grocery store. everything is kind of in this small area,
Mhm.
and it's very functional. So anything you need, like secondhand shops. There's a free shop in the student village where we live, or where I live, and so like everything in my apartment was basically free, which is awesome.
A free shop?
A free shop
Mhm.
in Kotipoja.
Interesting business model.
Yeah, it's just students, because students are coming in and out so much.
Yeah.
People just leave their stuff at this place, and you can just take it.
Yeah.
But it took a while, I think, to get used to living here for me personally. Just the weather, and it's so different. But after the first year, it just feels like home, and it's quite comfortable.
Were you living in a house by a lake or something?
Me?
Yeah. Was that someone else?
No, one of our
That's the movements.
James. I want to. Where is this house?
No, but you moved it. You've been living in the student housing
Yes. But
for all this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
James
it's
lives
James.
far away in some other.
Okay. Yeah. Because I would have been interested
Yeah.
in hearing experiences about people who
Yeah.
had opted not to live in the
Yeah.
student housing.
One of our classmates
Yeah.
lives with a couple of Finnish guys in a really cozy
It's a
house,
really nice house.
not too far, and it's possible. Yeah, he met some folks through church here, so
Yeah.
you can kind of get connected in the community, and if you're,
Yeah.
sociable.
I guess Jyväskylä is, I guess, a classic student town, and it really, like, the university is a defining feature of the city. I think students make up about a quarter to a third of the population here. There's about 100,000 people in Jyväskylä, and about 30,000 of them are students. So, there are a lot of students here, and that really shapes the culture of it. Although it's not a very big city, it feels like there's a lot going on, because there's always student parties happening, and there's always, student bands playing in the local pubs, and there's quite a nice culture here because of the university population, and there's quite a nice, I guess, tight-knit small community of international students here, which is, it's really nice to be studying in such an international environment. I think it's one of the best resources, actually, is you meet so many interesting people from around the world, both in the music psychology programs and also from the other programs, the other international masters. I think most of us are in the student accommodation. So I guess I can mention there's probably the largest accommodator of students is the Kotipoja Student Village, which is run by the student union,
It's
which
very
is
easy.
which is very easy. Yeah, everything is there for you. You're in a suburb, which is mostly students. There's shops around the corner. There's a pizza place around the corner.
Karaoke bar.
There's a karaoke bar, which is very important. Very important part of Finnish culture is the karaoke bars. There's also, everything is included in your rent as well, which is a great thing.
Including sauna.
Including sauna. So like your rent, which is about 200 to 300 euros a month, probably for most of the student housing around there. That includes your electricity and water and internet and laundry rooms. And also sauna.
Not on course.
Not in course.
In course it does.
No, we get an extra €7.
The public service.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's the public the same.
Public sauna. If you want a private sauna, you have
You
to pay extra. Yeah.
Which is €7 per month.
Yeah.
So we gathered some information and I've put it in the Q&A here, some links, and that COAS is another provider. Kotipoja is a student village, but COAS is not just students. So I'm maybe, Felix and I are both in COAS.
Yeah.
The rents ranged from €205 to 973 when we looked up for this. Kotipoja rent went from 239 to 1,038.
That's for family apartments. Which are separate.
Just about to say, yeah. So there are family apartments. There are single-person studios. You can rent a room in a house. I came here with a partner, so we ended up getting a two-person apartment, but added furniture so that it was a couple's apartment because they didn't have any couple's apartments available at the time. So one top tip would be to get in touch with them as soon as you have your letter of acceptance and get on the waiting list. There is emergency accommodation available if you haven't managed to get your accommodation sorted by the time you get here, and you can apply for that and or use Facebook groups for trying to find places. We've mentioned exchange students, and quite often exchange students will sublet their apartments. That is allowable under the terms and conditions. So you can recoup your rent if you're going to be off studying but you want to keep your apartment. storage would be one of the key things, and there are usually dedicated storage areas where you can lock up your things. Quite often students will just arrange amongst themselves to have someone store their things maybe for a month because they're going home over Christmas and then moving to a new place in January. And whilst it is quite expensive here, I mean, those rents can be cheap. And for our shared apartment, we're paying 434, which is including internet, electricity, heating, which you can't control. The heating comes on when Finland decides it's time to warm you up a little. So there's no chance of students running up ridiculous bills. But yes, it includes public sauna, but being Irish, we have never here done the public sauna. People normally do them in the nip. I think this is worth talking about. I was brought back on Northern Irish Radio last Christmas to talk about Finnish Christmas, and I did some research online and heard that some Finnish families have naked sauna together on Christmas Eve. And yes, it is healthy, but I'm not from a healthy background. I'm from Ireland where immunity is terrible. And the thought of sitting with your family. So, but a lot of people do ask about this on Reddit and Facebook. They ask, what about sauna? Can I wear my bathing suit? Yes, you can, but you have to wash. You can.
It's very improper.
No, but with everything that I've read from Finns has said, they are forgiving of international students doing this, wearing their swimming costumes, but you have to wash in the costume before you get in there. The idea is you have to be clean when you get into the sauna. So yes, there are public saunas. But anyhow, more about the cost of living here. It's one of the biggest questions we have all got asked. How do you afford to live in a Nordic country? And the thing is, the student prices are pretty good. Our meals in the university are €2.60 for the vegetarian option and €2.40 for the meat option, which says a lot about the availability of fresh fruit and vegetables.
That's just one cafeteria.
Yes, it's only one. It's not everywhere like that.
Normally
It's
it's only Cilia. Most of them it's $2.60.
Oh, really? So only table and it makes a difference. There we go. But anyway, that's quite cheap for your meal. It's a substantial meal. It's very carb heavy. You might want to bring your own spices. We have often brought chili flakes to add to the curries because Finnish food gets a reputation as being quite bland, but then so does Irish. So supermarket shopping, there is Lidl here. That makes a huge difference as a student. Buses is another thing people ask about. A single trip on the bus is €3, so a lot of students will go for a card, and many of us, as Jenna has mentioned, will just stick with bikes or walking. But there's a thriving second-hand market for bikes. There's a few Facebook groups and a couple of shops, including one right by the university, where you can buy a second-hand bike for a decent price. I'd say maybe 60, 70 euro. You'd get a good one, or a good basic one. Excuse me. Get a basket for your shopping, and you may not need the bus. I think I used the bus 3 times last year, but this year I've been carrying instruments, so I've been getting it loads. So yeah, cost of living can be quite expensive, but there are ways to get around it, and there is such a thriving second-hand market here that you really can save a fortune, not just in kitting out your house, but clothes and everything. That's one really strong point to the community here.
Just to echo that the second-hand market is great because there are so many students moving through here, particularly exchange students. They're here for a semester, then they go and they leave all their stuff. So there's always second-hand stuff. It's better if you get in early though. So if you're thinking of applying, come in August. It's probably you get a good head start rather than in September when everyone else comes here and the second-hand market becomes so much more competitive. The other thing, I think you mentioned transport. Probably the best way of getting around is cycling. For the most part, it's not a very big city. Cycling is very cheap. Once you've got a bike, you can use it. People do cycle in the winter, and lots of people ask me that. The roads do get a bit icy, but you can get winter tires on your bike, and then you're good as gold if you're a confident cyclist. So I certainly cycle in the winter.
Yeah, we don't use tires.
Pretty soon I'll start walking because I fall when I walk. So I don't want to mess around.
Top tip, you can get spikes that fit over your shoes in Top Money for about €7. They're basically like golfers' studs.
No, it's advertising.
No, this is really important.
It's getting quite detailed.
Yeah. But people are worried about the cold. They ask about the cost of living and about the cold at home whenever we talk about being out here. So yeah, we've never needed snow tires for the bike. We've been fine, but you could splash out in those if you are so inclined. Some people do bring their cars here as well, and we considered it, but found the insurance too high. So if you are a car owner, definitely do your research on the cost of importing it and the cost of running it here. In the end, we just decided we would be much better off without it, and we have been mostly fine. But if you were trying to gig and wanted to travel and see more of Finland, maybe you would consider bringing one in or consider hiring a car. But yeah, most of the students do stick with the bike.
So traveling within Finland is quite cheap for students as well. You get 50% off train
Buses,
tickets
Mm.
And omnibus.
buses.
See, that's interesting because we think it's very expensive here compared to home. But then I think it depends. If you book it well in advance, you can usually get good deals, but you can be limited to weird times of the day. So yeah, no, that's interesting to hear because we do see it as being much more expensive than other places. So I guess it's all perspective anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, the student discount is good. And we should mention, if you're used to getting discounts with the Isaac card, those aren't accepted here. It's your local Finnish card. So you do, again, you talked about arriving in August, you can try and get the student card set up as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Bring your letter of acceptance with you because sometimes they'll accept that for the discount as proof that you're a student before you've been issued with the student
Right.
card.
So all of these discounts depend on you paying the student union fee, which is about
100
About 100 euro?
for 1 year.
Mhm.
In the health center.
about €100.
For a whole year.
For a whole year.
Health center.
Health center.
I think the health center is great. All students get access to mostly anything at the health center. Some folks keep their health insurance from their home countries, but most things you can get covered and it's pretty, you just call, make an appointment, it's quite easy. So if you're worried about that kind of stuff, they really take care of you here.
So that's also something you get with the student union fee.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that pretty much covers in terms of what could be considered tuition. That's all you have to pay. For now, anyway. This is something that the government is constantly discussing whether tuition should be there should be tuition for international students. So far, so good. It's still free, and if you get accepted this year to study, it should be free for the remainder of your studies. I don't think they would. I don't think they would start imposing tuition fees for someone who's already here. It's really something that's going to start with new students. Yeah.
Sorry, one thing, when you mentioned coming in August, there's another good reason for that is the crash course in Finnish. We weren't able to because of work last year, or we would have. Basically, you can come and do a 1-month intensive course in Finnish. It's Finnish 1, which is compulsory for our course. At least it was last year. We live in hope that this becomes less compulsory. But it is compulsory for the next intake, isn't it, Mark?
That's to be determined. There will be some
Okay.
Finnish involved, but we're not quite sure how many courses you'll have to take to get your degree.
Okay, so you're probably then going to be doing that basic Finnish course, and it was
Definitely
a nice way
some.
to do it in August when you don't have other
Yeah.
classes and you can just focus on Finnish. It would help with settling in. So that's another reason to consider coming a month early.
Yeah,
especially when it's cheap.
The programs start in September, but we recommend coming early just to get settled, start meeting people, and especially this Finnish class is a good way to to start learning about not just the Finnish language, but a bit about Finnish culture and getting yourself oriented.
What is a very great thing here at the university is a tutoring program. As an international student, you get a tutor if you want one. Well, you get him anyway, but it's up to you if you want to meet with him or her. And it's very, very great, especially when you come from a country that is maybe not European, because they go with you to all these things you have to go. They help you opening a bank account. They help you with all the organizational stuff you have to set up before you can start the actual university work. They help you with a lot of things. You can ask them basically everything. And they're very, very helpful, very, very sweet people. And it's a very great thing to have and makes things a lot easier, especially when you're not so familiar maybe with things that might be a bit more bureaucratic, as in Finland they might be sometimes. But other than that, Jyväskylä as city is a very, very pretty small town with a lot of, well, we have dislikes, of course, because we're in Finland, and a lot of woods because we're in Finland. And it's very green, and you find a lot of things to do at Laajavuori, which is a hill where it's also like a ski jumping slope, and you can go skiing there in winter, which is basically now. And
that's just 5 minutes away from Kotipoja as well.
Yes,
Across the road.
it's very close to the student village, and you can go frisbee golfing. It's a lot of active sports here, doing things outside, being active, especially during the dark winter. And the cold season and everything. And so there's a lot of things to do here, even though it's quite small. But as the biggest student town in Finland, there are a lot of things that are there for you as a student to do, especially when you're interested in going out, go networking, but also if you really enjoy solidarity, you said?
Solitude.
Solitude is the word. Solitude. I don't know, like for just going for a walk in the forest on a Sunday or whatever. It's very, very pretty.
Absolutely. The lakes are lovely. I should put more photos up of lakes.
Yes.
I spend a lot of time photographing lakes here. It's a good place. If you come here, find a sauna by a lake. It's perfect. The other thing is with the buildings, I think someone mentioned the cold. You really don't feel the cold. I was worried about that when I moved here from Australia, because we don't know about insulation in Australia. In Finland, they know how to insulate buildings. So it can be minus 20 degrees outside and you'll still be plus 20 inside. So yeah, you just learn how to dress differently. That was a learning curve, but yeah, layers.
It's also a dry climate. So as a Canadian, I always say that Canada is much, much worse than Finland. Even though the number on the thermometer might be the same, it might be minus 20 in the same place, but in Canada, it's more of a humid coldness, and you kind of feel it in your bones. But in Finland, if you're well dressed, you can be perfectly fine to walk outside. And Finns are very proud of their winter as well. I'd say it doesn't keep anyone from staying inside, so people remain outgoing in the winter as well.
Even more so sometimes.
Pardon?
Almost people the town I noticed comes alive in the winter.
Yeah.
Like we had the first snow last week and everyone's just out and about. Like more so than when there was no snow.
Snowball fights in the street.
Yeah.
They also do a lot of lighting, like in the cities, they would have like switching on of Christmas lights and things, but not in a tacky way. They're very tasteful around Christmas here. But they do have a lot of specific civic lighting projects that are meant to brighten everywhere up. Because a lot of people will ask about the dark here, and I have to say it's not much worse than Ireland. When I looked up the time difference for sunset and sunrise, I think between Dublin and Helsinki, it was half an hour at one end of the day and 45 minutes at the other, so it's not a lot darker, but we would recommend taking vitamin D, and folic acid helps you absorb the vitamin D, so my mum sent me with multiple packets of those, and we ended up, my boyfriend's parents sent us daylight therapy lamps at Christmas, and those are cheaper in the UK, so if you're coming from there, buy them on that side and bring them out, because looking into those for 20 minutes a day, I'm talking specifically therapeutic ones, not gimmicky ones, do your research and pick a good one, they can make a big difference. And tied into that, I think just things to bring with you would be strip adapters from your home country, so that you don't need so many individual ones. Get one good strip adapter, possibly with surge protection if there's voltage changes from your country. That was a big help. We also shipped one box of basic kitchen appliances, so that, or not appliances, things like a basic saucepan, frying pan, some utensils. Again, you can buy all this secondhand.
Free shops.
And you can gather those up, but in terms of arriving on the first day, one of the great things about those mentors is they will meet you from the train if you arrange that, and ours arrived with a car. We had 3 suitcases, a guitar in a hard case, and a set of keyboards to carry, which was a heck of a journey, but she arrived with the car and we just about fit everything in. She took us to a shopping centre where we were able to buy an inflatable mattress, because we had to go for an unfurnished apartment. There weren't any furnished ones for couples. So we were able to buy an inflatable mattress on the first day, and we had some basic kitchen stuff arrive later. So it just took a bit of the stress off. I'm talking a real small amount of things. You could even fit them in your suitcase, maybe depending on where you're coming from. But yes, there's plenty of cheap second-hand options there, but do think about what would make your first couple of days easier, just to help with the settling in.
I need to say that the University of Jyväskylä really prides itself on the student orientation experience. So those first couple of weeks, getting people to settle in through the international tutor program, so that you instantly have a Finnish friend there who knows their way around the city and can show you how to set up a bank account and all these kind of basic things. And the university was actually rated, I think, the best in Europe for the orientation experience of the international students. So.
You're in like shock, and they just like take you places.
Yeah, just lead you around by the hand.
Okay, Okay, one thing that's being enforced this year is that there's an application fee for applying, which is €100 for non-EU students. So when you get on, when you go to this UAF system to apply for the program, they'll ask you, are you an EU citizen or whatever, and then you'll be if you're not, you'll be directed to this page where you should pay €100 to apply. The good news is that you only have to pay that fee once. So if you're really keen on coming to Finland and you want to apply at 5 different programs within the country, you just have to pay that application fee once. So that might be an advantage to some of you. But anyway, I think it's quite standard to pay to apply. It's common in other countries, and it's just the way that it's. There's just so much processing done because the application procedure is national. You don't apply to the direct university, but you apply to this national system. So that's just the way it works now. So €100 to apply. But once you're here, you don't have to pay much tuition.
Any other questions from folks?
Any other questions?
We covered dorms versus apartments.
Mhm.
Kind of the same thing.
In case of any confusion, there was a question about like where students live. It's not a sort of college-style dorm situation. You have either a kind of self-contained studio apartment, or you might be in a private room with a shared kitchen and bathroom between 2 or 3 people. So a kind of shared apartment, but they're pretty self-contained. But there are common spaces that people use as well, so you can kind of meet your neighbors, which is nice.
You never have to share a bathroom with more than 2 or 3 people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think 3, maybe 4 is the most number of people you'd have sharing a kitchen and bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually you just have one housemate.
Or
One or
well,
two.
in course, I know, like I live with 2 other guys, but I think that's the normal thing. I don't know how it is in Göteborg.
And I think the biggest thing to kind of get across is that everything is very like laid out for you here.
Mhm.
No matter what it is, apartment, bus, bank, it's very doable and like accessible, and they really help you. So.
Okay, well, I think we can end it on that. This will be broadcast. Will remain on YouTube, I guess, and we could even add some annotations to the description of the video, so you could, if you missed something, or if you want to keep asking questions, you can comment on the YouTube video, or to us directly, or through Facebook, or through Twitter, all those good things.
And we're back at 4 p.m. GMT.
Yes, and we're going to be back at 4 p.m. GMT time. That's 6 p.m. Finnish time, but 4 p.m. GMT time. We'll be back later. I'll be broadcasting from somewhere else, but I'll still be here to answer questions. Yeah. Okay, but thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Moi moi.
Moikka!